Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Gillison here today with an amazing, incredible digital media master as it relates to commercial real estate, but specifically the restaurant brands. Lisa Marie kind of put us on the back burner today, Kyle. She's out doing this massive $20 million deal. And she said, Steph, you and Kyle got this. And I said, you're right. We do.
Really cool. Yeah.
So everybody, welcome to CRE Power Hour. I love diving into very unique individuals who have built and scaled their business in a a very different way than the traditional commercial world. And you are a specialist as it relates to build restaurant strategies and launching successful brands and all kinds of stuff. So today we're going to dive into you, Kyle, and all that you know. Is that okay?
That's great. I mean, I think that would probably be a topic that I should know pretty well myself. So. My wife might think differently, but yeah, I think I could do that for sure. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Well, absolutely. You've mastered social media. You've got a huge following. You've done things that I only wish and dream that I had started doing way back in the day, but that's okay because it's never too late. But let's go all the way back. How did you get into this crazy business?
Oh man. So I was in the restaurant business for a long time, about 20 years. And when, exited the partnerships, at the time there were 3 restaurants and I needed something else to do. And I was not looking to stay too close to the industry. Typically guys in my situation were going to go into food sales, liquor representation, some sort of consulting. But, I was always intrigued by this woman who had helped us out when we were looking to expand. And she was just specializing in restaurant real estate. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. She was traveling all over the country. She was working with cool brands. But she wasn't working Saturdays and Sundays. She wasn't working until 2:00 in the morning. And I felt like I had, I was like 40 years old and I said 39. And I was like, I can't just throw out these 20 years. I got to find some way to leverage this experience. And we did everything not the right way. So we learned a lot by doing. We were very successful, which was great, but a lot of times it felt like climbing uphill in mud during a snowstorm, and we somehow just made it. And I wanted to be able to offer that experience. So I had reached out to her. She was working at a very large, the largest commercial real estate firm out there. And very grateful that she offered me the opportunity to work for her for about 18 months. And that was the beginning. And here we are now.
That is amazing. How many years ago was that, Kyle?
That was 7 years ago.
Awesome. See, I look at you and your career and all that you've done and how much you're known for because you have truly, through podcasts, and we'll talk about all that, but you've just built this national recognition for yourself. Like you've been around for 50 years.
Yeah, I feel like I have. It's, I saw that I had seen what social media could do. And I knew that it was, I remember the minute anybody who's been in the restaurant business or particularly owned a restaurant and, you could be doing anything any given day, right? You could be busting a table. You could be washing dishes. You could be having the day off. You never really know.
Slinging drinks.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And anywhere you have a slight skill set and there's where you're missing somebody, that's your job for the day. So I was bussing a table and a woman had said, well, we're just here because we saw what you posted on Facebook. We want what was on Facebook. And I was like, I don't even know what was on Facebook. I don't know what was on Facebook. And she showed me and it just kept happening like that. And I was like, wow, this is really something. So, we had built it up. We had leveraged that quite successfully for the restaurants. And I thought there was an opportunity to do that in commercial. And it was a little bit of a fight to get certain of my previous employers to agree to that. And I think, they were right to probably kibosh it a little bit. It's difficult to wrap your arms around, right? And but yeah, I think that's part of it is you get top of mind faster with this digital stuff is really powerful. And just by putting yourself out there a little bit, you can really, exactly what you said, seem like you've been in this business longer than you have, or doing a lot more than maybe you seemingly are because you're omnipresent.
That's right. Well, because the mentor that you had that when you entered the space, she probably wasn't even building her business like that, or was she?
No, she didn't have to. She was very successful with the brands that she had, still is, and she didn't want anybody to mess that up. I don't blame her, right? But at the same time, I had to do what I thought was best. So I had 2 choices, right? Do I subscribe to this theory and go this way, or do I try to go another way, what I think is right, which is infinitely more frightening. Um, but that's just, I had that entrepreneurial thought process the whole time. So I went for it, and yeah, it's been fairly successful.
So share with us if you didn't mind. And obviously I want everybody to, look you up, follow you on YouTube, because YouTube's a big thing for you too, right?
Yeah,
You've
YouTube,
got,
TikTok, yep.
I mean, TikTok, I mean, you name it. So, what did you do first? I mean, here you are, you're in the business. What'd you do first?
I started to think about what it was like to be me as an operator, and how I was being approached by brokers, and what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and what information they would give me, and what really would set that sort of BS detector off in my head. Like, hey, they're just trying to get me into a space, right? So I wanted to provide real value, and sort of let potential clients know and prospects know, like, hey, I've been you. I know that it's difficult to find time to tour. I know you don't have a great degree of trust with somebody like me, but I know that Monday is probably the best day for me to talk to you, right? Because you're closed. I would do some research into who they are, and if they've opened multiple units, I would go see them. I was local at that time, and just kind of feel it out and just introduce myself and try to be a resource. And that's ultimately what I think it all came down to. Was I wasn't trying to pitch them real estate services. I was just trying to say, hey, I love your brand. Would love to see you guys do more. Completely understand that it's a lot to take on. So if you ever get there to that point, I'm going to be following along on social. I'd love to just stay in touch, and maybe we'll cross paths at a later date. And that's kind of what happened. I wasn't too pushy. I wasn't too salesy. I just was like, and then I would follow them on Instagram. I would like and comment on their stories, on their posts. And that's really how it all kind of got started. And it's really been the same techniques that I use today.
And I love that because, we've had several guests on the show like you doing these types of things. And what I love about it is it doesn't take a ton of money to do it. I mean, it's really just time and just a little bit of knowledge about, and there's Eddie now. Look at these rock stars. He knows all about it. We were just talking about
guy,
you,
man. Jeez,
Eddie, with your nipples on TikTok. But
exactly. That's Eddie's brand. He doesn't care. He lets it fly. Braver than me.
I love it.
We have shared a bathtub before, though. We have been in the bathtub together before. I will say that.
Yeah. I've seen a picture, or maybe even that's on YouTube or something. I saw that
Probably.
somewhere. There was somewhere. But for anybody that didn't see Eddie's episode, please go to the CRE Power Hour on YouTube and watch that, because that is mind-blowing in itself and awesome. But no, Kyle, I mean, that's what I love about your approach, Eddie's approach. So many people's approach is, yes, we have to spend money in order to make money, but with social media, you can spend so much less. It's time and it's effort. I mean, were you a social media strategist prior to, or just a user?
No, I tell everyone, if I could find my old iPhone, there was probably countless pictures and videos that will never see the light of day, right? Like, when this all started, everything was out facing, right? It was take a picture of the house, of the food, where you're on vacation. Very few people were doing that selfie thing and like talking to the camera. That took practice. That took, I'm bald, I'm older. Should I even be on this platform? Like, is this a good look for me? I don't know. And just like anything else, it was like, hey, you know what? This is how the world sees me. This is how I communicate. And I think that authenticity part is, if you don't like it, fix it, right? Like, if you don't like the way you sound or the way you look, fix it. But in terms of the process, it's just reps. The analogy is made all the time. Like, you're not going to get stronger looking at pictures of push-ups. You have to do them. And it comes with practice. And it certainly did not come second nature to me at all.
No, absolutely. But, and that is always the hardest part. I even struggle with it. You just got to hit record and send it out, or hit the live, just go live. Because if you record it, you're going to, critique it so long, it's never going to get uploaded. So just go live with it, and just be done with it. But yeah, I got to look in the mirror and say that to myself still to this day. So
exactly,
too funny. So as you're building your business, you're focused on, you were focused on, already established restaurants or corporate or expansions. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I had already had a network of restaurants, and I had been in the business for a long time in the same market. So I knew a lot of people in the business. And I started there. I started with 1 to 2 unit operators doing one-off deals. I definitely remember my first job there. She said to me, you don't want to be known as the one-off pizza parlor guy. And I'm like, you're right, I don't. But I gotta, I have bills to pay, right? Like, so I
You
had to
got to
start
pay the
somewhere.
bills. Yeah.
And hands down, I can unequivocally say that reputation, the reputation I have now, was built off of social media. So when they see that, hey, I created this story, and yes, I did put this pizza place here or this cell phone store in the Bronx, I did that, but this is who I want to be. I want to be able to provide more to you guys. Let me know. And just telling that story is what opened up different doors. But it was definitely starting with the mom and pop looking for that second location, or the one guy who was selling his business, and see if I knew somebody who could help. So, but yeah, I mean, you have to start somewhere, but I think that's the power of being able to use these platforms, is you can leverage that platform and those, the followers you have on that platform, and even some people aren't following you, to tell your story. And if you can tell your story in a meaningful way, it's going to get out there a lot faster than if you just kept continue to do, word of mouth, the old school way. So I'm grateful for those singular one-off deals, because they led me to where I am now.
Well, and exactly. And, and that's how you pay your bills, and you learn as you go. I mean, we all have to learn, and you learn by doing deals. I mean,
Yeah.
truthfully, you're not going to learn that in the seminar, right? You're not going
Right.
to learn that by listening. You're going to learn that by actually physically doing it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I love and appreciate about the content that you're bringing forth is it's not always about lease this or this. You're not pushing the real estate or the opportunity in somebody's face. You're actually giving them value. You're leading with value, business guidance,
Yeah.
restaurant expertise, telling those stories of maybe what you failed at so that they don't. That I love that, because that's why you're authentic. That's why you're an influencer.
Yeah. I don't, I always say I don't want to do one-off deals, not because I financially or any reason like that, because I generally have such a strong physical and emotional connection to the person who's trying to grow their baby, right? They're trying to grow this business, and the slightest step one way or the other can lead you down the wrong path. And it could be financially detrimental. It could be, detrimental to your personal life. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And I think once I tapped into that, and that, like talked about all the time in this business and in sales, is that know, like, and trust factor is, hey, I know that this is going to be a challenge for you, and here's why. This is the mistake I made, and this is what you shouldn't do. I find it to be more of a way to really let them know that, hey, I'm not just throwing spaces in front of you because I know you need 2,500 square feet. I wanted you to open up 2, but I also want to be there for 3 through 10 as well.
Yeah.
So let's do this together. And I can only do that if I'm providing value, upfront value. And the only way I know how to do it is tell them about the awful, horrible mistakes that I made. And it comes up all the time, and it definitely has been a way to start conversations that eventually, leads to doing more business. But I'm probably leaving short-term money on the table, but I have a long-term vision for this. So I think in the
That's
long
right.
run, I'd rather be involved with groups that have some staying power and recognize that.
100%, because I've always said to anybody I mentor, coach, train, look, you can be one and done, or you can be in it for the long haul. The long haul is what I've always been after, because I'm building the career, not
Yeah.
just a few years of income. So no, that's great. So talk to us about, going from local, because now you're doing this across the entire nation. I know you're in, big city, New York. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, very different worlds, but we're both doing national business. How did you take that from the local one-offs, mom and pops, and expand it across to work with these large corporate brands and launches and so forth?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure I have a real straightforward answer, but I know that it was always about realizing that a lot of these big brands didn't exactly have all the answers, right? Like, and it was a matter of getting in front of them and saying, hey, not sure what you guys are doing for real estate now. I am based in New York, but we do work with a wide variety of brokers across the country that specialize in hospitality. And, you know, um, really just leaning on me being their point of contact and guiding them through that process and serving as almost like a translator to some brokers and others markets. Like, hey, this guy is here's his situation. This is how he needs to position himself, and really just helping them navigate that so they can focus on their business. They need to have a certain degree of trust if they're going to hand this off to you, especially if they're in New York and they want to go to Louisville, Kentucky, right? I'm going to reach out to you. You don't have that much. Kyle, tell me about these guys. What are they all about? He's not going to be able to get on. The brands that I deal with are 3 to 7 units, ideally looking to expand. He's not going to be able to jump on a call with the broker every time. So if I can translate his situation and to the point where he trusts me to tell that story and have it be, now I'm putting on my broker hat and talking to you, and it could be a 15-minute conversation as opposed to a 45-minute conversation. I mean, that's save that time over the life of our career. That's significant. So that's really what I just lean into. And I don't try to be pushy. I just want them to know, like, I've been in your shoes. I want to help. And to the extent that I can help you, I can absolutely refer you to the best in the business in your market.
There you go. It's perfect. I mean, you're like the glue that keeps everything together,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what I think maybe was a more amplified because of the pandemic is that people they're cognizant of their time, and they also want to just make sure that they are talking to the right person without having to talk to, multiple people, like a consultant, an attorney, an accountant. Not that I'm an attorney or accountant, but we can keep those higher level conversations like, hey, is your P&L in order? Can I get those tax returns? Well, so I think it's important to maybe be a little bit more of an advisor. It's definitely, I think, key to the brands. And I think on the broker side, collaboration is definitely a key for me. And I love to collaborate. I'm not looking to make the most out of every deal. I want to have real meaningful relationships with brands and brokers.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You brought up the pandemic, and I think we should bring that up because, the restaurant industry, I mean, several did, but the restaurant industry especially got hit huge with, all the issues with having this pandemic, being closed, losing employees, you name it. I mean, and they're still feeling that. When I wake up and, at 4 a.m. in the morning, I'm always reading in the headlines. And what scares me still to this day is when I read that, less than 25% of all restaurant owners will be able to pay back that COVID money that wasn't forgiven. And that scares me to death because, this is everybody has to eat, but also too, if they can't afford to pay back those loans and they're out of business, I mean, we won't get political here, but come on, we got to do something to give some people some relief because we need this is middle America we're talking about in reality.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of these, communities that are turning around, the redevelopment opportunities that are maybe on that corner and they're not quite where they want to be. A lot of that turnaround is built on the back of these mom and pop businesses.
That's
and
right.
I say all the time, like, restaurants didn't start the pandemic. They were, it was, and I understand a lot of businesses were affected, but we're talking about something that has significance in everybody's neighborhood. Like,
that's right.
That the pizza guy, and if he's not there one day, he's not, the money he's making is paying his kids, school tuition, gas for their car, dance lessons, sports camps. It's not lining the pockets of investors. That has an impact on the communities. And I think that's why it hits home for so many people, because it is, these are people you see at church, you see in the supermarket, and they're adversely affected trying to serve the community. They have a passion project. A one-off restaurant is not making a whole lot of money for one individual person, and the fact that they're struggling, it needs to be addressed, because I'm starting to see it now. I'm not sure if you're seeing it there, but it's starting to seem like a lot of these restaurants that couldn't keep up with their COVID commitments with their landlords, like, hey, let me pay you, extra, extend a couple years on my lease. It's not working out because now there seems to be a couple more opportunities coming to the market. So, that full impact, I don't think we felt it yet.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. I think there's more to come, and that's why we're just now starting to hear it. We did something because as I started to read these headlines, one of the things that I did in my past life of real estate, did a lot of asset liquidation, and so I really learned how to negotiate debt. Because look, I mean, in real estate, we all know what a short sale is. When a property can't sell for what's owed on it, it sells short of the mortgage.
Right.
Well, then let's do that and help these small businesses or medium-sized businesses. Let's do that in this scenario and then in that situation. And I think that's like the next step to keep these people open. I was
Yeah.
talking to a massive franchise about a month ago, and I asked him that question, and I said, how many stores, and these are franchise owners that, franchisees that have had these things open for sometimes 20 years, right? I said,
Mm,
how many stores in your network of 5,000 do you think are already facing this issue? And right off the cusp, without even thinking about it, Kyle, he said, I already know of over 600 that already want to close. And I'm
mm,
like, and it all has to do with they haven't been able to keep up. And even if they got relief from that landlord, they want all their money now,
yep.
because
Yeah.
what's happening, they just feel like they can move somebody else right into the spot. Right. And so that's where, do you have any plans? And I hate to put you on the spot. We do all of these completely unscripted. So we haven't even had a conversation prior to today, but do you have anything that you think that, could help in those, or any plans in your business going forward to focus on anything like that?
On the disposition side for these restaurants, yeah, I don't. I would love to be a resource in that way because it is so hard to shut down a restaurant, shut down a business,
It
right?
is.
And there's so much emotion. There's so many, looking around the space, you can see it. And I know that it's a difficult decision, and to be there to sort of like help guide it or even to look at it from the other side, like, hey, this may be something you can fix, or maybe if you turn this into something else, some other kind of opportunity. It could be the best thing that ever happened to you, right? Like holding on too long is often a mistake. So I don't, but I think that's a fantastic idea. I think that
I
they're
think it is. And I
yeah.
think you're the perfect expert, to bring that into your wheelhouse because, the thing about it is, and my expertise is not restaurants like yours is, Kyle. You know that. Part of my team, we do some franchise sales with some large national brands. My expertise has always been in the development side of things. And, when we went through the downturn in the economic, recession of 2008, starting in 2008, one of the things that I specialized in was representing the banks who had to take back these unfinished
Mm,
developments and didn't know what the heck to do because the banks were not developers and they weren't builders, but they would get these projects and go, what the heck are we supposed to do?
right.
Well, they called me. I came in and I said, okay, we're going to take this condominium complex and we're going to turn it to multifamily because there's a need for apartments.
Mm,
That's going to take rezoning. It's going to take this, but that's what we're going to do. And so we were always trying to find the highest and best use. And I think now, the messaging is, and I'd love for you to start working this into your communication because you do have this skill set, is if you're struggling to keep your restaurant open, don't close.
mm, right.
Let's work on a establishment plan.
Absolutely.
Let's go to SBA and negotiate some of your debt because it will happen. It is available to happen.
Yeah. I have, and again, some of this may be my own, I have my own personal experience into this, but I know what it's like, right? Like you're in your business, it's not going great, right? You think maybe you should tweak something, but then, if I change that, this guest isn't going to like it, or my partner won't agree. And we should maybe just stick with what we're good at and just kind of ride it out. No, like, yeah, you have to be head up, look yourself in the mirror. And I think the best restaurants coming out of this, who may be still dealing with the repercussions or some that avoided it altogether, thankful,
Mhm.
grateful for the decisions that they made, is they took a real hard look in their mirror at themselves and at their business and said, all right, what do we do? Like, what do
Yeah.
we do? Who are we as a restaurant? What's working? What's not? How can we salvage this? And what do we need to do as a business that we're not thinking of? Let's really get our heads together here and, adapt to the situation. And like you said, do you have to speak to your bank? Do you have to reach out to the SBA? Do you have to, maybe your space is too big? Will the landlord chop off a piece and lease it to, a retailer or so? Who knows? Like, I don't
Yeah.
think you can. I've said this before. I don't think you could propose something to anybody if you're truly trying to save your business that they're gonna be like, "Ah, that's crazy." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because things like ghost kitchens and virtual brands, if you would have said that 3 years ago, people would have been like, "That's, you know, the Jetsons.
Yeah.
That's the future. That's not
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And look how quick that changed. So I think you could really propose something and say, hey, look, I just want to be able to use the rooftop on Friday nights for pop-ups. I don't want, you can lease that space before I help you find a tenant. Is that possible? You know, anything
Yeah.
to make sure you don't lose what you invested so much time and money in.
Well, and yeah, and exactly that. And also, you know what it costs to start up a restaurant.
Oh,
You know what it costs to get all of that equipment, to get it all set together. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of dollars, right? And this is what I told that national brand. I said, look, what's the startup cost to open your brand if a new franchisee comes to the table now and wants to buy, this market? And they told me, and I said, okay, when one closes because they can't afford to pay their debt and their landlord, what is it worth? Well, that equipment is what? I mean, it's an eighth of what it was paid.
Oh,
It's 10 cents on the dollar, right?
Some cases I heard they can't even get somebody to come pick them up because they have such
Exactly.
yeah.
So you shouldn't lose that sweat equity in there just because and what all you've got, because the next person that comes along is going to have to spend, the normal price to get everything started back up and bought and purchased. And I mean, it's just, there's value in something already set up. There's value in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what a lot of these restaurant owners are looking for. And I think at the franchise level, where they may be dealing with several hundred units, you're talking about significant capital, right? I mean, I love that.
Yeah. And I think, I just think it's one of those things, but it should, we all need to be cognizant of it, because look, if people are going to settle on a mortgage, they're going to settle on a business loan. They're going to, there's the same things that can be applied there. So sorry to get off on that topic, but I thought, what, you mentioned the pandemic, and it's something that we do need to be thinking about.
And I do think it's bubbling under the surface, I don't think that it's, especially with everything else that's hanging out there, it's something that, could at any moment, like you could hear that any franchise group is going out, and now what are you going to do? Right. Like now, but those, the ones that have their head on a swivel and are looking like, well, hey, maybe, there was the, Le Pain Quotidien by the group, I can't remember their name, but they took advantage of them and said, hey, you guys are closing these stores. We'll take them, or the Orphi brand. We'll take them under our umbrella. We're going to turn them into something else. Like that type of vision is what I think where you're going to really see some long-term success. You just have to have the ability to look at it as an opportunity.
That's right. That's right. So what's next for Kyle? What's 2023 hold?
I'm big on still same kind of thing is helping restaurants from making some of the mistakes, from a real estate side, operational side, working a lot on collaborating with different brokers in different markets and looking for areas of opportunity. What's the next sort of Charlotte? What's the next, where are these new emerging markets? And then different sort of avenues, I think I'm not an operations guy. I'm not going to come in and write your hand manual. I'm not going to do that type of stuff, but I know people who can do it. And I know a lot of folks who are top of their game at it. So, just really kind of trying to help in any way I can. I really love the idea of being a one-stop shop for these restaurants. Real estate is for sure my most important vertical. But what comes from that often for years, I joke all the time that somebody will ask me, what's happening in Atlanta right now for restaurants? What do the rents look like? But then that same guy might ask me like, hey, do you know a bread guy or a manager? Or do you know somebody who's looking for, so it kind of like runs the gamut of that stuff. So I like being that person. And I think the more, again, social media, you put yourself out there, the more that opportunity starts to present itself.
Awesome, Kyle. Well, any other like cool things that are coming up? You're one of those, you keep being recognized for the influencer because you're there, you're owning that spot. Any other cool things like that happening?
I was really a lot of, just because it is mostly restaurants, and I think some of it is just that the real estate industry is not there yet, but there have been a lot of opportunities to speak to different groups, and different companies have asked me to speak. So I was in LA the other day for the Toast Spark LA event, which is, again, it's just a theme I'm sensing. And I think even in real estate, like I've experienced at another event that I was at earlier this year, it's this idea of making time to, not just be head down, deal, but head up and looking for different kind of opportunities. So, this was a very collaborative event with Toast POS out in Los Angeles, and restaurant owners coming there, just kind of networking and like, hey, what do you do? What are you doing? How's this
Yeah.
working for you? I think people are more open to that. And I think I'm sensing more opportunities that way. We're going to be at the National Restaurant Show in May, doing like a live, sort of very much like a media row, like the Super Bowl type of deal. ICSC, of course, is coming up in May as well, so we'll be there for that. Yeah, just getting ready. My wife's having a baby, so we have that going on.
Congratulations. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, a couple things going on.
Yeah, you're busy, man. Well, I will see you at both of those shows. We'll be at the restaurant and ICSC. So I'll see you at both of those. We'll have to have a drink or something.
That I can do. Go out to a restaurant.
I love it. Kyle, thank you so much for being on here today. You bring value to everyone, us, everybody listening. You inspire people every day. And I think you and I have a lot that we can collaborate on too. So I can't wait to see what we can do together. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you, Kyle. Have a good one all.
Bye, guys.